I am Brother John Allen Green, a Franciscan friar and a hermit from Johannesburg, and this is my weekly podcast, Reflections from the Hermitage. Peter had seen the rich young man go away sorrowful, because he had lots of stuff, lots of possessions, and just could not find himself to give this away. Peter contrasted with this great refusal the swift willingness with which we and his fellow disciples had left all to follow the Lord Jesus. The same old question, what's in it for us? Jesus responds with a parable of the laborers hired to work in a vineyard. All the laborers are paid equally, irrespective of their input through the day. The laborers who have worked all day in the hot sun feel most aggrieved. What about us? The kraal, our Franciscan formation house in Pretoria, South Africa, was a pigsty. Literally a pigsty. The old farmstead stood on about 20 acres of land on which pigs had been raised. Over time, buildings had been converted into bedrooms, classrooms, and the many utility rooms. Even our beautiful little chapel had been converted from a motor vehicle outhouse, what we term a garage. Alterations and additions had always been undertaken in the rather typical Franciscan higgledy-piggledy fashion, without much regard for the final product. The water supply lines crisscrossing electricity power cables, and the sewage lines without the necessary grading. Repairs and maintenance was an ongoing saga. It was 20 years ago, on the eve of my leaving for Canterbury for further studies, that the lights of the guest wing fizzled out into darkness. As a purely interim measure, I rigged up a line with some flex cable from the wall plug in the bedroom running up over the bathroom door to the globe in the centre of the ceiling of the bathroom. Returning to the kraal 5 years later, this jury-rigged line was still firmly in place. Franciscan joy. It was with the zeal of a dreamer, a small budget, and of course my trusty red Reader's Digest repair manual, that I was given the task of repairs and renewal. Builders, plasterers, carpenters, plumbers, and electricians were all trades that would be needed. Builder supply warehouses abound in our country. At each one of these outlets are to be found tradesmen with their tools, along with general labourers waiting to be employed. You'll find them there first thing in the morning with little placards advertising their skills. And if you pass by at mid-morning, or at lunchtime, or even early afternoon, you will find many of them still there, waiting. Jesus himself was a tradesman. Whether a carpenter or stonemason is not quite clear, but Jesus would certainly have known what it meant to stand with other tradesmen and labourers at the gates of Caesarea, waiting to be employed. Far from the royal palaces, the schools of rhetoric and the religious elite, these were the people who Jesus knew. These were the people who he associated with, entwined with their hopes, their emotions, their lives, and with every encounter, Jesus was there, the expert on the human heart. And today the disciples' hearts are troubled, they are aggrieved. Just like the labourers in the vineyard who have been labouring all day. We also can feel agitation when we see those who have put in little effort coming out on top. Jesus' teaching in this parable would have been understood beyond the obvious differences between equity and equality. Jesus' teaching, beyond the social dimension, is about the nature of grace and love, which is never earned or deserved, but derives from the very nature of God. I say, let us banish forever the loathsome and vindictive images of the horned Pan in Dante's Inferno, stoking up eternal lakes of fire to 4,000 degrees. Jesus, the very incarnation of love, helps me to look into that dark place where the slithering antithesis of love resides. This is the nature of the enemy, envy. Envy looks upon the good that is given or befalls another, and becomes aggrieved, becomes angry. As the antithesis of love, envy makes me boastful of my own achievements, and spiteful towards those I see as rewarded. Envy and jealousy have much in common, as the doubled-edged emotions that corrode both the protagonist and the goods that are desired. Envy, however, is particularly corrosive, as it desires without any right, in particular what another person has been given, whether this is health, beauty, riches, youth, or intelligence. Envy does not require these qualities in general out there, but wants a particular person's gifts, what's been given to them. Envy is pernicious because it is illegitimate and undeserved. The Catechism tells us that envy is a capital sin, a sin that tends to lead to other sins, and specifically refers to the sadness that we have in the sight of another's good, another's rejoicing. It refers to the immoderate desire to acquire them for oneself, even if it means acquiring them unjustly. St. Augustine saw this particular sin of envy as a diabolical sin. He said, "From envy is born hatred. From envy is born detraction. That is telling the truth about someone's character to another who has no right to that information. And from envy is born calumny, telling lies about another's character in order to destroy or to ruin someone's character or reputation. Out of envy is born joy that exults in the misfortune of another. Our seraphic Father St. Francis warns that whoever envies another the good which the Lord says or does in him commits a sin of blasphemy, because he envies the Most High, who says and does every good. So envy is really a sin of blasphemy. We can be like those servants who worked hard all day, and we have. We have labored hard. All those masses we've offered, our reconciliations, our prayers, our donations to the needy, our forgiveness of those who have hurt us, our faithfulness in marriage, our sacrifices for our kids. We have been faithful and we have labored hard. The trouble is that bit by bit I come to believe I deserve more than those others. When God is generous to those others, especially those who have hurt us in some way, we come to resent it. And so we envy others, their good luck, their popularity, their good looks, their intelligence, their possessions, their partners, their marriage, their fame. And we say to ourselves, how come they've got it all? How come God seems to have given them more than me? Surely I deserve more. and the more envious and resentful I become, the less able I am to appreciate my own good fortune, the gifts and graces that I have received. I have poisoned the very well of my own joy. Let us for a moment picture a familiar scene. In every classroom there's always one student, sometimes a few, who get A's, who come first in every test. They always behave well, and the teacher sometimes praises them, saying, "Why can't the rest of you be like Johnny or Susie?" And we hate students like this. Students like this make us look bad. So what do some of us do? We seek to pressure the teacher's pet, to conform to our own mediocrity. In effect, we seek to destroy the goodness or excellence in them. We taunt them with names and pelt them with spitballs. And if ridicule and isolation doesn't work, then we'll just plain beat them up. This is envy. Sorrowful and angry at the goodness of another, because they make us look bad, and so we set out to destroy what is good in them. Perhaps we could learn from them or their good example, but envy rejects joy and zeal, with sorrow and anger always sets out to destroy what is good. And something we do almost without thinking. When someone at work is a rising star, we may easily engage in gossip and defamation to undermine their reputation, to tarnish their image, just to bring them down a peg or two. We may do this at times in an even unreflective manner, almost without thinking. We may diminish and belittle others. We diminish their accomplishments by careless and insensitive remarks. We often do this because we need to knock others down, to feel good about ourselves. This is envy. Sometimes we show envy passively, by omitting to praise or encourage others, or by failing to call attention to their accomplishment. Envy is subversive and manipulative, using superlatives and relations to bolster personal esteem and pride, while devaluing the value of others. Envy is often concealed with a smile. "Oh, what a lovely dress, but maybe that color makes you look fat. Could the money not have been used to feed the poor? Yes, that was nice, good, but..." Envy is ugly, insidious, especially when it masquerades as goodness. It actually diminishes and seeks to destroy goodness itself. The proper response to excellence and to goodness is and should always be joy and zeal. And so at the end of this week, let us make an inventory of everything God and others have given us, everything, and we'll find it much easier to be generous with others and to banish that poison of envy and resentment that result in so much suffering in our world. May the Lord grant you peace.